Are you going to have to reskill all of your team because of AI? IBM released a report recently that got some big headlines yesterday. Catch what it's about. Coming right up. Hey, this is Wolf's Watch. I'm Wolf. Thanks for joining the conversation today. And today we're watching headlines that hit the news yesterday that an IBM survey showed 40% of the workforce is going to have to be reskilled as a result of artificial intelligence tools being deployed within companies. Because it'll automate processes, change workflows, replace some people, perhaps. So, dug into that a little bit. Now, I got the copy of the actual report after seeing the headlines going, okay, what's really going on here? So, here's what IBM really said. Executives in our survey estimate that 40% of their workforce will need to reskill due to implementing AI and automation over the next 3 years. So, 4 out of 10, 2 out of 5 on your team will need to reskill. And I thought, what the heck does reskill mean? Does that mean retrain? Yes. There's a deeper meaning to that, though. Of my understanding, and if you're an HR professional, please chime in on this. That may have this totally wrong. This is my understanding of it. For you as an entrepreneur, that means their skills will be obsolete. They need to reskill, or in other words, they need to learn new skills in order to be employable in the future. Over the next 3 years, this is going to take place as AI continues to get embedded in business processes. New tools come out, new processes, workflows result largely expected to be due to automations, and that was a big part of what they said. And the question that these CEOs were answering was, quote, "What's the most pressing talent issue facing organizations today?" Building new skills for people was the answer. The executives in the survey went on to say that 40% of their workforce will need to be reskilled. Were you around in the 1980s when we were reskilling manufacturing employees, or perhaps the early 2000s when a bunch of blue collar people were told go learn to code? Yeah. So now this is coming, and I had somebody, a colleague and mentor of mine in the 1990s, was involved with a company called PeopleSoft. And this was a kind of a wild west of the dot-com go-go years in the 1990s. This was a company that became the premier software tool suite for mid-sized companies for their human resources functions. And this gentleman was one of the lead people in going around the country implementing this. And he told me in the 1990s, he goes, watch what happens. He goes, there's going to be a time in the not very near future or not very distant future, sorry, I got that wrong, and that we will see a revolution in productivity in the white collar world like we did in the blue collar world in manufacturing. And then we're going to see that in office work, in knowledge work. It's going to be automated. They could see it coming 20, 30 years ago. So this has been building up in these workflows, knowledge management systems, expert systems that predated by several generations what we see as large language models now. And I know if you're an AI pro, an AI expert, before you start, I understand that that's not the same thing as what we're dealing with today. It's on the path of how we got to where we are today. So this was something that the hardcore tech pros, software pros, business system integrators saw in the 90s, early 2000s, to going, hey, you know what? For white collar employees that are doing knowledge work, you're going to see the same kind of automation of your jobs that happened in factories and other blue collar positions in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. And that's what we're seeing now. So what new skills? And as a business owner, what do you need to do to make sure that you're taking care of your team? What kind of culture, what kind of environment do you want to have if 2 out of 5 are going to need to learn new skills because the skills that they have that they've been applying, that made them great members of the team are no longer viable. You don't need them because it's been automated through artificial intelligence. How do you want to work with those folks? Right. And there's not a right answer to this. Okay. Just think about that. This is a question that's going to become huge because if 2 out of 5 people on your team are no longer going to be not just necessary on the team from a productivity standpoint, but will no longer be employable, because that's really what that means. That's what we ran into when automation really kicked in the 80s and 90s in factories. There were a lot of people that were great at what they did, good people. They just no longer had a skill that they could get hired for in the marketplace. The number of jobs for that skill was dramatically reduced due to automation. Same thing's happening in the white collar world. Clerical work is going to get hit hardest first, and it will spread into other areas. So what do you want to do? Do you want to be one of the people that just says, bye-bye, sayonara, they're out the door? What if it's somebody that's really high value member of your team, has an incredible mindset, brings so much to the team because of who they are, their personality, but they just don't have the skills? Is there a possibility to reskill them in-house or to send them out for retraining, for learning, and then have them bring that new skill back in and apply it on the team, perhaps teach others? So these are the kind of questions that as a business owner, you're going to be dealing with starting this year, like January, because ChatGPT and all the AI tools that hit the market, that hit the popular use market at the beginning of this year, really late last year, but it exploded first quarter of this year. Guess what? It's here. What are you going to do? What kind of business do you want to have? What type of responsibility do you feel towards those people? Because that will become a political argument. But think about that. 2 in 5 white collar professionals. How many millions of people is that? And if they're getting pushed out into the street with not so much as a thank you, let alone a way to pay the mortgage, feed their family, clothe their kids, right? Keep the kids in school, build the future that they were shooting towards, there's going to be issues around that. So you need to think, where are the opportunities? So it's going to create a lot of opportunities for organizations that are good at reskilling, at retraining. And so, which is reskilling, or what we used to call retraining in this aspect, is very different from A, education, or B, training, because to retrain is harder than to train. Training is different from education, right? Education is about acquiring knowledge. Training is about acquiring a skill. It's doing something. It's knowledge of it's a transfer of not just knowledge, but the ability to apply the knowledge and to accomplish things with it in a productive manner that are hireable skills in the job market. So think about that. It's going to be tough questions. We'll have more on that coming in the future. Love to hear your comments and thoughts on that. How do you approach it? Where do you see your responsibility lying? Well, what would you like to do? What are the financial realities of what you can do? So guess what? World's getting more complicated for you as an entrepreneur. And that's another thing that the CEOs have been saying in surveys for years, going, you know what? It's super complicated. It's a bit overwhelming, and it is just going to continue to get more and more more complicated. So hopefully through Wolf's Watch and other organizations like ours, you will find ways to simplify it, because that's part of what I like doing with Wolf's Watch. Let's take things that are really complicated. Let's see, with working together, we can start to simplify that so that it's possible to see what's the actionable path for you, because there's not a one size fits all. As long as we continue to be a free society, we get to apply what works best for you. You get to craft the life that what works best for you, because we're still at a point where you have that freedom. So thanks for being part of the conversation. I'm Wolf. This is Wolf's Watch. I will see you on the trail.